Doesn't Frank cook and clean for you so you're free to do what you want? Did you get everything?
This is one of my best and oldest friends, Daniel. Because of my own poor choices, I could have lost him as a friend for good, but I'm thankful every day that that didn't happen. You see, as I shared in the past, for me, the transition from 6th grade into junior high was an extremely difficult one. It was a period where I largely was really searching for my own identity, trying to find out who I was and where I fit in this world. And along with that, struggling with acceptance from girls and experiencing the pain of rejection, it was just a tough time. To top it all off, my parents moved us right at that transition into junior high, and so I had to start junior high going to a new district with a new school, not knowing anybody and having no friends. So I still remember vividly the first day meeting Daniel in junior high. The group of guys from my classes that I tried to hang out with was largely led by 3 people. 2 white guys, Jace and Matt, and Daniel. And I remember ever since the very first time I met him, I've always looked up to Daniel, and in the beginning I wanted to be just like him. To me, everything about him was just so cool. He was a leader of the group and just so naturally athletic. When we would play group football at lunch, he was always one of the team captains, able to choose whoever he wanted on his team, and he was always known for his rocket arm, being able to throw these incredibly powerful straight line bullet passes and able to bomb the ball all the way to the other side of the field. On top of that, his fashion sense always blew me away, and I always wanted to model my clothes exactly like his. It's funny to look back and think about now, but during that period where I was trying to reinvent myself to make myself more attractive, I largely looked towards Daniel as my ideal model. In fact, he was one of the primary reasons I ditched my bowl cut and went with the spiked look, because I thought it looked just so good on him. I literally copied everything, down to the way he wore his baggy pants, to his penchant for wearing dress shirts to be GQ. In fact, I even bought his used shoes once because I thought they were just so cool. He had these blue Kareem Campbell skater shoes that had these super sick reflective strips on the side and this clear sole on the bottom. It was just so cool, and after he wore them for a couple months, I asked if I could buy them, and I actually bought it off him for $50 even though they were a size too large for me. Even beyond just appearances, he largely shaped a lot of who I am today. I remember looking up to him so much when he would come to school and talk about playing Final Fantasy VII on his PlayStation 1, and it made me want to go do exactly the same every weekend so I could come back to school the next week and talk about it with him. He was also the best Counter-Strike player I'd ever seen. We all started playing at Beta 5.2, and we'd go together to these PC rooms, and he would just absolutely dominate.
Dominating!
In fact, he was so good at bunny hopping, which was an advanced technique for moving super fast, which was really hard to execute. On Dust, he'd be able to bunny hop to the other side of the map and get behind the opposing team and kill the entire other team before any of us had a shot. His impact on me was just absolutely undeniable. In fact, he was the reason that I even got into cars in the first place. I distinctly remember the very first time I even noticed anything about modifying JDM cars. So it was when Daniel was on my computer on the Nissan website looking at a Bayside Blue R34 GTR when they first came out. It was literally like opening up a whole new world to me. When I eventually begged my parents to get me that red Honda Prelude that I eventually went on to crash, Daniel worked at a restaurant to help pay for his flamenco black Civic Si. I still remember the day he got it. He walked into my room while I was taking a nap and threw the keys onto the bed, and I was so excited and I ran outside and was just blown away when I saw it. And that would be a pattern he would go on to repeat, constantly working and changing cars and just updating to so many cool cars, and I always looked up to him for it. Down the road, we modified our cars together, and he joined me at a lot of the racing events I went to and filmed a lot of my most favorite footage of the Supra. We even spent hours together playing Gran Turismo on my arcade seat and steering wheel, literally spending days lapping Circuit de Monaco in an F1 car. Later at the LA Auto Show, we entered a Hyundai-sponsored Gran Turismo competition, and because of all the time we spent playing that game together, he and I finished that competition second and first place respectively. But beyond simply the interests that we shared, the cars, the video games, the fashion, what really stood out to me about Daniel was the way that he supported and loved my family. In terms of people who appear in our home video footage most often besides us, Daniel is up there because he was always with our family. He often joined us in a lot of our family trips and church retreat getaways, experiencing and hearing a lot of things that only our immediate family would have gotten to see. Like being physically present, the time Mom shared about me, which I showed in a recent video. Or joining us on a lot of the church retreats, multiple day getaways where we just spend time together in the mountains. He was also one of the biggest supporters at my brother's football games, going to nearly every single one. And I remember he would get so amped every time my brother made a huge play or had a huge run. He would get more excited than me. We would then go home and rewatch the footage of John's runs, just getting excited all over again as if we were there again. It was just a huge pleasure having him come along, and I'd always invite him first anytime we were going anywhere. My parents were also super fond of him, Mom in particular, and she would always ask whether or not Daniel was going to be joining us. He was just a part of so many unforgettable and fun activities. Like the time we presented our fake family tree where I made him my father. Or the time he and I took our raving stringing skills that we used to go and show off at the school dances with and did it at church for the church talent show. The truth is we were close, like brothers. Which is why it's all the more bizarre to me now thinking back that when it came time to give back to him, that somehow it just didn't cross my mind and I just didn't do it. You see, it was our junior year in high school when the incoming freshman class, there was a girl that was a sister of one of our mutual friends. It just so happened that her and I both had a free 6th period, and so we would kind of loiter around and just hang out during that time. And so I still remember distinctly one day Danny pulling me aside, telling me that he had a huge crush on her, asking me if I could help introduce him to her. You know, thinking back, it was the least anyone could do, much less for someone that was considered a brother. And so you might already guess where this story is going. And I tell it with hesitation because I'm so embarrassed and ashamed that this had ever happened in the first place. But I ended up approaching her the next day, intending to broach the subject, but in the course of that conversation, the subject of the conversation got steered instead towards her and me. And so long story short, instead of being wingman to Daniel, this closest of friends to me, I ended up betraying him, dating her myself instead. The aftermath of that mistake could have gone many different ways, all of which I would have deserved. And it's true what they say, trust takes a lifetime to build, seconds to destroy, and forever to rebuild. In this case, however, Daniel graciously took the high road and forgave me for my mistake. And the truth is, that relationship ended up being short-lived, but this friendship that I have with Daniel has lasted through all these years. And what's even more meaningful now is that during this period of time with Mom's illness and COVID, Daniel has been the single friend to come over and visit us to see how I'm doing and how our family is doing the most. And those times when Mom is able, and even though they're becoming fewer and fewer, she loves to see him and always says hi. And so now on the side, Daniel is an aspiring actor, and that clip that you saw at the beginning of the video was an audition clip that he made. He also started a YouTube channel some time ago, making some hilarious sketch comedy clips like this one about a Starcraft SCV's first day on the job.
TV good to go, sir. Reporting for duty, sir. Yes, sir. Orders, Captain.
And so I'll include the link in the description box because I know that he would appreciate some love. And if nothing else, just know that I owe a lot of who I am to him.